Let's start this with one Om at least. I know we had an interruption. Just to get the mind back to its state. So hopefully we should be okay now. I just restarted the application and hopefully that will fix it. If not, let's just continue. And if there's a delay between my lip and the voice, just don't look at the lips, close your eyes and listen. I don't know after this. After a point, we don't know how to handle this technical thing simply because it seems outside our control. We should be okay now? Good. So Maya says we are okay. And we shall proceed with prayers to the Divine Mother. When I call upon and when I refer to Divine Mother, I know in this age and time it seems very religious and seems very Hinduish. I'm not going to circumvent that. I'm not going to beat around the bush or try to modernize my approach, because that was not my approach in Kundalini Yoga. When it comes to Kundalini Yoga, at least, I understood this way, I practiced it this way, and what I have experienced is what I'm sharing. I know I'm going to repeat this many times. So I refer to the Kundalini as a divine Shakti, as the Mother Goddess, as the Supreme Being, as the energy principle, the Shakti of the Shiva consciousness that has brought forth all this creation. And that's why there is that mother's element to it. And the mother protects her creation. There is nowhere in the law of the universe, even in the microscopic objects that you see, even in the animals and even in human beings and so on, even in insects, even in creatures like the snake and so on, you will not find the mother harming the child because it has come from her. So in this concept of this creation itself, the law of the parent, the law of the mother especially, towards a child, it's a cosmic law. It's not an emotional thing that I'm referring to when I say mother goddess and mother and son and mother and daughter. So in the depths of my own unconscious, because of this mother principle being linked to the cosmic law of love and protection, there is no harm inbuilt in my unconscious. So there is no way for that fear of harm or danger to come forth. I'm going to start with this because I did get at least 6 or 7 texts saying that, oh, it is a dangerous, so-and-so said it's dangerous, so-and-so said it's dangerous, and some of you all said that you bumped into this spontaneously and it was a very uncomfortable experience, and you might have lost your sanity and so on and so forth. I respect those experiences. And then I was thinking, and the only way I can share this is with an anecdote. It's like you bump into something and it shocks the daylight out of you. It could be a lottery ticket that you might win, and it might shock the daylight out of you. So extremely happy things or extremely sad, anything extreme suddenly happens, it shocks the system because the nervous system and the body is not trained to handle it. You just won't know what to do with it, and therefore it seems insane. You seem you're going crazy, right? And that could be the result of the experience. That could be the reason why people said it was people said it was dangerous, and or it was bhayanak, as they say. It was scary and fearful. That's a reason. So maybe those chances exist. Maybe those possibilities also exist, that sometimes you bump into this divine treasure within and you're suddenly revealed, and that shocks us. It's like, you're fast asleep and somebody pulls the curtains and lets the sunlight suddenly flood the room, and assuming that you're sleeping way past sunrise. then you're not going to, the sunlight will just hit and wake you up so fast that you are not going to like it, right? So you quickly grab a pillow or something and cover your eyes and then slowly awaken. So it is possible that that could have happened. It didn't happen with me, so I may not be able to relate to that. For me, the way I learned it was through practice, through sadhana, through prayer. And a combination of all of this together is what makes it to me a complete practice. To me, if somebody would ask me Kundalini Yoga, I would explain from the asanas point of view, from mudras and kriyas and all of that. That is one side, a very important part of the practice. But all of that practice remains incomplete if the bhava or the attitude or the feeling, if I were to teach it, it would be incomplete if there is no attitude or bhava towards the Divine Mother Goddess. So that to generate that feeling, you have to learn to approach Lalita, Sri Chakra, Devi in that attitude. Without that, this practice is incomplete. And only that, without the discipline of a lifestyle and eating habits and sleeping habits, and without yoga in general, to me, each of these are incomplete. They both supplement each other. And that is why during Navaratri, in addition to deep meditation and intense yoga practices, we also do the Lalita Sahasranama, the 1,000 names of Lalita. If one takes that up for study alone, leave alone chanting and recitation and all of that will come slowly, right? You take one name for studying and meditating each day or each 2-3 days, every 2-3 days take one name. What does it mean? There are very good books written and so on. So if you begin to study that, her consciousness slowly begins to seep into you, and your consciousness begins to merge into her consciousness, because you're constantly thinking, what does Sri Mata mean? Why would they start the 1,008 names of Sri Mata? Because that itself is Mother Goddess, right? Sri Mata. So what does that mother concept mean? How can I relate to it? And just thinking about it, you don't have to be doing pranams and be afraid that this is the Mother Goddess I have to worship. That becomes like a religion thing. I'm talking of a spiritual thing where you begin to just delve into that consciousness. Think about it. And allow that name, Sri Mata, Sri Mata, Sri Mata, to settle into you. Understanding, defining the way you understand it. When you begin that, along with yoga practice and pranayama and meditation and all of that, then that becomes a complete path. Otherwise, to me, it seems incomplete. Like I said, this is one blind man sharing his experience. Please take everything like this with a pinch of salt. We are talking of a cosmic consciousness, and every one of us are born with the right to explore a path that seems right to us. There is no one objective path. So again, I'm sharing this merely to tell you that this path is real, the experiences are very real, and there is a divine place that our consciousness can open to, that there is a treasure within us. And the joy that you get from that treasure can never, ever be compensated, even to a tiniest fraction, by billions of dollars or millions of dollars, or how many ever zeros you want to add to dollars or rupees or money or property, whatever you want, you can add. It has nothing to do with that. Okay? So, all right. Having said that, let's explore Swadhisthana Chakra. The Swadhisthana Chakra, as the name defines, Swadhisthana, our consciousness begins to imagine or understand, like all of us today are in, most of the time, most of us are in most of the time, the consciousness begins to understand this chakra, this center, this vibration, this frequency that is happening at this level of the depths of our mind. We are using the spinal cord as a reference, the body as a reference. So that is just a point where you begin this understanding. Okay? So the Swadhishtana Chakra, the consciousness begins to understand this as its true home. Oh, this is reality. This is what reality is. So where is this chakra? And why does the consciousness begin to think like that? How do we relate that into our everyday life? Just like I said, when you are caught up when you do get caught up sometimes with fears, insecurity, or laziness or sloth, anything that pulls you down, makes you heavy, makes you slow, then you know that the Muladhara chakra is beginning to operate and open up. There is a positive side to this as well, right? So that is the discipline part of it. You need to balance it out with that. In the same manner, Swadhisthana Chakra is just slightly above the Muladhara Chakra. They're almost together. These two chakras are almost considered one. Almost. They are very, very close to each other. So it's like this. If you have a plant at home, even if it's in a pot, right? You pour what is in the pot. There is a plant, there is mud, there is earth, right? Muladhara, earth element. Muladhara is connected to earth element. Swadhishtana Chakra is connected to water element. Why are they so close to each other? Because like when you pour water into the pot, which has got mud, what happens to the water? It just goes into the mud. And then it's very difficult for you to separate the two now, right? Unless you keep pouring a lot of water in the mud and the pot can't retain, then it settles. And after a while, again, it goes into the mud. And it becomes one with the earth. So both these are very intermingled, very close to each other. So that understanding and that separation itself helps. So that is why the practice of asanas and kriyas, bandhas and mudras that we'll touch upon today helps in understanding this separation. It is this close, these two chakras, just this close. So from the Mula Bandha Sthana, we discussed these two sthanas or locations in class 7, I think, on the earth element. It was class 7 of the earth element. You can refer to that. I'm not going to go into details. We took the anatomy and studied because it is important to understand the human anatomy from bandhas and kriyas point of view. Chakras are vibrational field. It's a field of vibration. So there's no one particular point that this is exactly where the Muladhara is. Okay, it is a field. It's in a completely different dimension inside this body, but you use the body as a reference to understand that. Okay, so location is slightly above the Muladhara chakra, in the region of the sexual organs. The urinary bladder, where you practice the Vajroli Mudra, which I also talked about in class 7 of the earth element, where you learn to hold, let us say, the feeling of urine, you want to hold it back and pull it back. You begin to understand a different control over certain muscles internally. That is the general location of the Swadhisthana, and that is enough for us to understand for meditation purposes the general location of Swadhisthana, the region of the sexual organs. Now, before we go further into Vajroli Mudra and all of that, let me go back to our slides. So, Swadhisthana, the consciousness begins to understand this as its home. Why? Why water element is so important that it begins to understand this as the home? Because water element is constantly like this, moving. There is a part of the water which is very still. Think of the ocean as an example. When we talk of water element, meditation on the water element, and all of that in Swadhisthana, you think of the ocean. That's where life comes from. All of us, Matsya Avatara, the first avatara, the incarnation was fish. In other words, life came from the ocean. So, Swadhisthana Chakra, ocean. What is the quality of the ocean? The surface of the ocean, if you feel, is always moving like this. Okay, because of the wind, so that's another chakra that will control it. But however you control the wind, this quality, it will get into a gentle rhythm, but this will always be like this, like the waves. Like even the calmest ocean is never still. That is the stillness of a pond. That is stillness of death. We are not talking of that stillness at all. So there is constant movement. This is the water element. But below that surface, and then there are times when this water, when the wind comes and this water is crashing into the rocks and there is stormy conditions, all happens on the surface. But below that, below that water, as you go into the ocean depths, even if it's 20, 30, 40, 50 feet below, there is calmness. Okay? There are some currents and all that, but there is general calmness there. Okay? Understand the quality of this. It's very important for us to know this. Very, very important for us to know that this is the quality we need. We need to go beyond the surface of the ocean. What is this ocean and this movement of water related to us? How is it related to us? And why is it that the consciousness gets trapped here thinking this is reality? So the water element is connected to the senses. All the senses. In general, all the senses, especially the tongue. Especially the tongue. Look at the tongue. It is always soaked in saliva. Where there is life, there the tongue is not dry. Right? When there is death, the tongue becomes dry. Water element ceases. Blood stops flowing. Finished. Life is gone. So water and life are very connected. Water element is connected to the tongue and the sexual organ. Sexual organ is related to urine, passing of seminal juices. So that is also water. Okay, this is also water. And tongue is the king among all the senses, if you will. Why? So the tongue becomes a symbolism of all the five senses. If you control the tongue, almost all the five senses come under control. Even the eyes and the ears and the nose, sense of smell, sense of sight, sense of touch, all of that comes under control if you are able to control the tongue. Why? Because tongue is the only sense organ that helps us understand the idea of experience. When we say experience, in any field, right? When we say I have experienced this, in other words, you have learned to internalize what somebody else talked about, and you experience that as if it was your own, correct? On a mental level. Take that into the tongue. The tongue is the only sense organ that actually takes an object from the outside and internalizes it, helps us internalize it, and gives us the immediate feedback of that experience. The breath also goes in, but there's nothing to learn from that. There's nothing, you have to only control the breath. You can't do anything else beyond that. The tongue immediately says, is it salty? Is it sweet? It analyzes? It helps you understand that. There are taste buds in the tongue that helps us understand and appreciate an experience. So if somebody asks you today, hey, do you know what an apple is? You would say yes, right? Why? Because you have not just seen the apple. If you have only seen the apple, the yes hand will go down very fast with the next question. The next question will be, oh, is it? So how does it taste like? You would like, oh, I don't know. I just saw it. So seeing is not. Have you heard of apple? Yes. Oh, what does it look like? What does it taste like? Oh, sorry. So you see where it's going. Once you taste it means you have seen it. You have touched it because you have touched the apple. You have seen the apple. And you have tasted the apple. So all the senses come into the taste. All the sense comes into that experience of the taste. So the taste is very, very important to understand. Which is why in Sanatana Dharma, in our spiritual practices, in traditional spiritual practices, there is an element of control of the tongue. So in the classes after Navaratri and so on, as we discuss the water element, we're going to go into detail about those practices, much more in detail, correct? But this is just to establish the connection between Swadhisthana and the tongue tongue's relation to all the senses. So Swadhishtana Chakra is connected to all the senses. That is why when we live our lives based on the reality of the senses and say, but this is not real, I didn't see God or I didn't feel anything. How can, you experience something great, I didn't feel anything. Why didn't you feel anything? You didn't experience anything. And therefore, when we say that, I didn't experience, I didn't feel, I didn't see, I didn't hear, I didn't touch, my sense of reality for me my experience is now limited to what the senses are providing me. And so when we say, well, let's come back to reality, let's come back to this world, what are we talking? Let's come back to Swadhisthana Chakra. That is our comfort zone. Swadhisthana and Mooladhara become our comfort zone. So that becomes a pond. And there is something that is preventing these two, the consciousness to move consistently. Consciousness, Devi will rise anywhere in the spine, right? There are moments we have felt the highest experience, but we pull her back into the Mooladhara and the Swadhisthana. There are times we experience great creativity. There are great talents that I experience. All those are signs of Devi, okay? Arising and expressing through other centers of consciousness. But then predominantly she keeps going back home. Where is her home? She goes back predominantly, right? Predominantly she keeps going back to Swadhisthana and Mooladhara. Back to a lifestyle that is governed by the concept of security, feeling of security, fear, caution and all of that, and the reality of the senses. So Swadhisthana and Mooladhara are active. So when these are active, there is only a small part of this divine Kundalini that is awake. Without Kundalini awake, you're dead. Okay, so Kundalini awakening is not a special feature. The fact that you and I are sitting and talking and listening, senses are functioning, means the Mother Goddess's Shakti is already there. That Shakti is what makes everything happen. Correct? But that is one small infinitesimal, is there a word like that? Infinitesimal. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. The smallest, tiniest fraction of that is what is required. That is why in modern science, they're understanding that as, oh, you need just a small fraction of your brain to actually function in this world. We're not even explored the 95% of the brain. We are only using 5% of the brain. That is why modern science is coming to an understanding. They're talking from the brain point of view. We are talking even more deeper, more than the brain. We're talking of what gives energy even to that brain. So even if they discover the 100% of the brain, that will still be a part of the divine Mother Goddess Shakti. So that is how it is. So because this is cosmic consciousness, there is no limit to it, right? So a small portion of that is what we are using for us. So Kundalini is awake in all of us, but a very, very tiny portion. When we want more of her, when we begin to explore this, we awaken her, and that's when this awakening happens. So take that and understand that I'm putting it in the right perspective. So Swadhisthana happens. So now how do we, therefore, first of all, understand and practice and cleanse the Swadhisthana? Cleansing the Mooladhara was cleansing it from all the previous lifetimes, burden, jungle, undergrowth we talked about yesterday. Swadhisthana, what is that? To cleanse. Swadhisthana is caught up with sensual realities. We are basing everything on the reality of our senses. That is why I have this colored background today. Oh, so much color. That's what the senses. Senses depends on this color all the time. It's just color. We want color, we want something colorful to see, something colorful to taste. When I say colorful, it's not just one taste. We want a mix of tastes, salt, sweet, sugar, some spices, and so on. All right. So now how do we cleanse this chakra? The cleansing of chakra. What do you mean by cleansing of chakra, therefore? Cleansing of chakra is getting rid of likes and dislikes. Raga and dvesha. The mind is caught in raga and dvesha. We talk about consciousness trapped between the two extremes. It is only swinging this way, the pendulum. From like it goes to dislike. From dislike it goes to like. And everything else in between is how we have defined our reality. I like this, I don't like this. This is, I'm not sure if I like it or don't like. So all the spectrum of between likes and dislikes of every person, every event, every experience of ours, we judge it and define it based on likes and dislikes. That is our problem. That is where Swadhisthana comes in. Swadhisthana Chakra is where the consciousness is constantly caught up between likes and dislikes. All these likes and dislikes are based on sensual experiences. So let's explore this more. because it is caught up between likes and dislikes, because it is caught up between the effects of the senses, first let us understand the energy of this chakra, the deity of this chakra. This chakra, just like you had Ganesha breaking forth, this chakra is of Indra and Indrani, Shiva and Shakti, Shiva and Parvati. In other words, to understand this chakra, we have to understand the masculine and feminine principles in our body and bring them into a state of balance. Masculine state, in other words, this is where the practice from beginning from this and above is where the practice of certain yogic practices come, where we begin to balance the Ida and Pingala. Okay, the balancing here, we got to understand this. Therefore, we invoke Shiva and Parvati. Indra and Indrani were the deities of this chakra. I'm saying were, not that they are not. But for us to visualize, it's difficult. I'll tell you why. Because of Puranic stories and the way it has been related to us and the way we see it today and read about it today, we may have, and this is only me perhaps, we may have a very poor picture of who Indra is. But Indra is a divine force. Indra is the god of all gods. It's not that energy I'm talking of. And he is the god of this chakra. Actually, traditionally, if you go back to the oldest, Indra and Indrani. So it's the same energy of Shiva and Shakti, Shiva and Parvati, husband and wife. This is I use the word Parvati and not Shakti here, because it's important to understand Parvati did penance to come to Shiva. So you need her grace in this chakra. Indrani is a tremendous, she's known for being pativrata. In other words, all her energies are directed towards Indra. In other words, all our energies are directed towards the mother goddess, towards the Shiva energy. When we direct all our energies, we become the pativratas, we become Parvati, we become Indrani. Okay? So we have to understand the deity here is Shiva and Parvati. It could be Vishnu and Lakshmi. It could be Indra and Indrani. It could be Radha and Krishna. All of that has to be understood. Their stories, their relationships, their energies that they exhibit together is what we need to understand. So you can take any of those stories and Puranas to meditate, and it will help this chakra open in a very benign manner, in a very beautiful manner. Now, should I think of Parvati and Shiva in this chakra and all? No, it's not like, it doesn't work like that. You think of those deities together, this chakra is what is going to operate. That is the only way you can think of these deities together. Indra and Indrani, when you think of Vishnu and Lakshmi together, it is the Swadhishtana that is beautifully beginning to vibrate, to give you that sense of understanding. If you think of Krishna and Radha together, this is the center that is beautifully opening to give you. Each of these centers are very divine. So don't think of something a lower centers and a higher centers. I may give that impression in my talks, and that is my ignorance. But I remind myself, and I've experienced each of these are extremely divine, because you get visions of these divine energies residing in those chakras. So in my own Swadhishtana Chakra, I have seen Indra is so beautiful and so divine, so divine. It's unbelievably divine. I can't even explain how. So Indra and Indrani are the god. In other words, think of masculine and feminine. What is my masculinity in my consciousness? What do I think as feminine? I have to balance both. So creativity, emotions, feelings, all of these are considered feminine. Masculine is confidence, ability to go out, ability to anything extrovert in nature is considered the Surya energy, the sun energy, the masculine energy, the Shiva energy. Anything that is motherly, tenderness, creativity, talents, arts, all of that becomes a feminine energy. The Shakti energy, the Parvati energy, the nurturing energy. Okay? So when you sit down, even if you're a mighty, strong father, when you sit down with your 2-year-old on your lap and you're explaining, it is the Parvati energy through you that is nurturing. Okay? So it is the Shiva and Shakti. We have to understand this. Why? Because the mantra that follows is important. Now there are 3 mantras I have been practicing for many years, and the first ones will be complicated. So the first one is, it goes like this. Om Aim Hreem Shreem Shiva Shaktyatmikayai. Shiva and Shakti Atmikayai. This is again a mantra from the Lalita Sahasranama. Towards the end we say you merge into Shiva, because that chakra connects you to the highest chakra, to the Agnya chakra especially. There is a connection between this and the Agnya chakra. So don't think, oh my God, these chakras are I don't know how long it will take. We never know. Leave that to the grace. Okay, don't complicate it by intellectually thinking about this. Enjoy, and in each it's like this. Each chakra, think of it as a temple. I'm not telling you to visualize it. It is actually a cosmic temple in a divine dimension. A cosmic temple of the cosmic Purusha, the Virata Purusha's energy centers. So your window opens and connects you to that Mooladhara of the cosmic being. And from there you will understand everything of all past lifetimes you get to understand. In the same way, your Swadhishtana is a small window, a small door that connects you to the Swadhishtana of the cosmic being. That cosmic being center is a temple in another dimension. A temple which is, I'm talking this from a point of view of from the experiences I've had. I can only say it that way. I don't know how else to say that. So that temple gives you, and when you enter that temple, you begin to see and understand things as if you are actually buying a ticket and going into a temple here. It's a completely different reality that opens up. So think of it that way, okay? Like I always keep saying, my experience may not be yours. I don't know. I can't bring myself to say this is what it is. I can't yet. I'm not ready to do that. But I want to tell you that you are connected to the cosmic being. I know this for sure. Okay. So for me, when this chakra begins to open, it connects to that temple, and then, of course, I have not explored each of these temples. In other words, if you explore the whole temple, that means that chakra is open fully. Like I told you, it reveals itself in layers. It's like these ancient temples of India and South India and all. You go, each layer is so many of them. In Tirupati is behind 7 temples. So each hill you cross, you get a different view of the temple, I guess, from top of each hill. I don't know. I haven't really not crossed the 7 hills. But it's perhaps something like that. So it connects you to the divine. Lalita Sahasranama is like that. Shiva Shakti Atmikaya. It connects you to that oneness. Agnya Chakra connects. Swadisthana connects. So in the end of Lalita Sahasranama, in the 1,000 names, they say Shiva Shakti Atmikaya. So you have to begin to open that door now. It's like telling the mother, go meet Shiva. It's like telling yourself, go meet Shiva. Because that is my true nature. Being one with Shiva is my true nature, not separate from Shiva. So in this mantra, as we meditate on Shiva and Parvati, we meditate on Aim Hreem Shreem Shiva Atmikayai Shreem Hreem Aim Om. Om Aim Hreem Shreem Shiva Shakti Atmikayai. Shiva Shakti Atmikayai becomes Shiva Shakti Atmikayai. Shakti and A becomes Shaktya. Okay? It is a little bit of pronunciation. With little bit of practice, it becomes easy. Shiva Shakti Atmikaya, you can also say that. It's not wrong. But when you join it together, when it keeps reverberating in your mind, it becomes Shiva Shakti Atmikaya. Shiva Shakti Atmikaya. Shiva Shakti Atmikaya. Tya. It becomes like that. Shiva Shakti Atmikaya. Shreem Hreem Aim Om. You start like this and you end, reverse back and come back to the main Om. So the Om is a point that joins both this together. This is one mantra. A more simpler mantra is Om Hreem Shiva Shreem Shaktyai Namaha. Om Hreem Shiva Shreem Shaktyai Namaha. Shakti Namaha, it becomes Shaktiyai Namaha. When you say it in mantra, it becomes like that. Om Hrim Shiva Shrim Shaktiyai Namaha. Om Hrim Shiva Shrim Shaktiyai Namaha. Om Hrim Shiva Shrim Shaktiyai Namaha. So this is another mantra. I find it more easy to simply chant mentally, and we'll come to the process of chanting. And the last one, even more simpler, is Om Shiva Shakti Om Namaha. Om Shiva Shakti Om Namaha. Om Shiva Shakti Om Namaha. These are the three mantras. In Mooladhara, there is only one I practice, Om Gam Ganapati Namaha, nothing else. In Swadhishtana, there is the Om Aim Hrim Shrim Shiva Shaktiyat Mikaya Shrim Hrim Aim Om. Om Hrim Shiva Shaktiyai Namaha. Om Shiva Shakti Om Namaha. Now, some of you may have the burning question already. Which of these are more powerful? Which of this is better? Which one should I start with? The idea of a mantra being more powerful or a mantra being less powerful is a very subjective definition of what a powerful mantra is. If I tell you this is a very powerful mantra, do it. What does that mean to you? What do you mean by a powerful mantra? It means nothing. So drop that bizarre abstract idea of thinking of a very powerful mantra. Mantras become active, not powerful. Mantras become active, and the deity within the mantra becomes pratyaksha. In other words, the deity, the energy within the mantra begins to get activated and begins to guide you. So you have to activate the mantra. I know that there is a tradition, a belief that you need to have the proper guru to initiate you and all that. I respect that tradition. But that is like the highway. Somebody had a divine pass to go into the party. So they go to this party at the king's palace, let's say. And they went. But Cinderella could not go to this party. So she got there with divine grace, correct? In the story of Cinderella. And the rest is history. If there was history to it, the fantasy story of Cinderella. Think of it like this. So there are lucky ones who find their guru, get initiated and go that path. So let that be. But you don't mope in the corner saying, oh, they are lucky, I have not found my guru. You begin to activate this mantra. If a guru is required for you, this mantra will guide you to the guru. By then you would have done your homework. And that guru's blessings will give you more confidence to practice it more, that's all. But it is very likely, like that Cinderella, the fairy goddess will appear and she will take you directly into the palace, gives you all the tools to enter the palace. You wouldn't need a stepmother and her blessings to take you there. Please understand that is a tradition. We have to respect that tradition. That has come from the Natha tradition, the Guru and Shishya tradition and all of that. Because the Guru takes time to explain the mantras and guide them. You can approach the divine directly. This is why I keep saying that the Mother Goddess is a mother who provides protection. So she will guide you in this. There can be nothing wrong in these mantras. She will guide you, and as she awakens, she guides you into this. Okay? Something for you to consider. So these are the mantras that you could practice. Then let's go further. I'm going to open up these ones here. The petals, there are 6 petals in this chakra. Again, we have talked about balancing the masculine and feminine energy. In the same manner, these petals here are like these waves of the ocean, constantly like this. So we have to constantly try to balance the forces that are negatives. I use that consciously because the negatives are things which keep us trapped in the reality of the senses, and there are other qualities that help you slowly release yourself from that. So there are the 6 qualities of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. For those of you in the path of Sanatana Dharma and the path of spirituality are familiar with these. Those I put them in English. Kama is lust, Krodha is anger, Lobha is greed, Moha is delusion, Mada is pride, Matsarya is jealousy. Lust, anger, greed, delusion, pride, and jealousy. You have to bring them down. And you have to begin to encourage the other one. Sama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana. I'll explore these 6 positives much later in the KM classes. I did these classes in Varanasi. I was inspired to do. And it's come out well, I think. I've not had a chance to review those videos. But I will share more in detail about these. But these are the positive practices that help the Swadhisthana come under control. Why do we have to understand this? This is why I keep saying it's not dangerous. Why? Because once you start doing this as a sadhana, bring it into your lifestyle, then grace comes beautifully. She awakens herself beautifully. But if I don't begin to control the 6 negatives, I'm still caught up in karma, excess lust or desires, anger, excess anger, greed, delusion, pride, and jealousy, and so on. I'm caught up here. I'm doing a little bit, very little of mind control or sense control and withdrawal. I'll explain the reasons for all of this, okay? But later on, not in this class. Withdrawal, forbearance, faith, and equanimity, and so on. Samadhama, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana. This is very important here. So with these, when you begin to live a lifestyle, that's a sadhana. You have to live that lifestyle. So for us, when we lived in the ashram of Baba, this was just given to us. This was part of our life every day. There was no room for lust and anger and greed and delusion, pride and jealousy. There was nothing, because we did everything for Baba. So there was no reason for any of that. Of course, little bits here and there would happen. That's what we learn to control, right? For example, somebody would sing bhajans very well, and Baba would say, "You're a very good singer." And I'm sitting next to him, I'll say, "Oh gosh, when will I get that?" I don't know if that was jealousy or what, but I wouldn't like that. So I'll say, "Why? I'm also doing my best to offer. I'll practice hard," and so on. So I learned. Those are little things. Those are the only way we came across these negatives, if you will, of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. But the lifestyle has to support this, which is why Kundalini Yoga and all is taught in ashrams. Now you understand why it was not consciously kept as a secret, but it was taught in ashrams, because that ashram lifestyle, the Gurukula lifestyle, gives you an opportunity to practice this peacefully. The plant has to first firmly be planted in the ground, right? Then it can go and spread and welcome all the buffaloes and cows, and all of that can come underneath seeking shelter. But the little plant is not going to be able to give shelter to everyone. So what it does, it protects itself and goes deep and focuses first on its own. So that is why it was taught in ashram. So if you and I are practicing it in our everyday life now, the progress will be slow. So be patient. That's all it is. It's not going. I'm not saying you won't progress. It will be slow because you have a lot more challenges to face, right? A lot more TV shows to give up, a lot more things that you have to work with. You got to go to work, and this and that and so on. And so you can understand that becomes more of a challenge, and therefore the progress will be slow, and it's okay. Let it be. We never know when divine grace comes and how it will help each one of you. So the petals, 6 petals, represents the 6 negatives and the 6 positives. And both these have to be constantly balanced. That's why the ocean again is like this, constant. Balance doesn't become still. That is not balance. Balance is learning to maneuver between these 2 forces. Okay. Then comes color and energy. So after the pre-dawn, the darkest part of the night, what happens? What happens after the darkest part of the night? When you look toward the eastern sky, there is the deep blue color of the sky. Slowly you begin to see that. Okay? So that is the energy, if you will, or the color of this chakra. It's not a color, it's like the energy of that time. So from pre-dawn, after Mooladhara, you move, after one Muhurta, 48 minutes of Mooladhara, you move into the next 48 minutes of Swadhisthana. I'm saying 48 minutes roughly. But it is almost like one Muhurta for each of these. So you move into Swadhisthana, because the nature, she's awakening every morning. Devi awakens and shows you how this Kundalini happens at the cosmic level. And so for serious practitioners of yoga, the meditation begins like this. So each chakra has its own time. This time is the time of the dawn. This is why Brahma Muhurta becomes so important and more popular in all our spiritual practices, not pre-dawn but Brahma Muhurta, because sense control is the greatest challenge today, right? We have become slaves of our senses. We have allowed senses to define our reality. We say, this is what is real, I am very happy, I don't want to go anywhere. So this is what it is. And therefore, the Brahma Muhurta time is the right time for Swadhisthana Chakra. What is the main obstacle? Habits. Habits, all kinds of habits. Anything becomes a habit, it is a problem, because you get caught in the habit, right? Even yogasanas, if it becomes a habit, then you're just doing it as a habitual thing. A ritual becomes a habit, then it becomes you're doing out of habit. Out of habit means the bhava, the attitude, the energy behind is gone. It is just mechanical in process. So our likes and dislikes are habits. If you think, without sugar, I don't like chai, right? We say that. That's a habit. That is our problem. We have to constantly challenge our habits. So even when I'm very, usually, Ma and I are very strict with our diet. But every 1-2 weeks, every 2 or 3 weeks, we break it. Purposely we break it and indulge in a food that we want not. We shock the system because of breaking a habit. The system goes into a shock and so on. A couple of days, you come back. But the idea is you have to keep breaking every habit of yours. Think about that. Okay? Habits, just like fear was the main obstacle in Mooladhara, habits become an obstacle. So generally, your guru, even Baba would say, develop good habits and all. So don't take that out of context, okay? That is generally, okay? But in Kundalini, when you begin to understand, free yourself from everything, free yourself from likes and dislikes. Habits are all caught up in this life and likes and dislikes spectrum, raga and dvesha. Raga is extreme attachment, extreme likes, and dvesha is extreme dislikes, extreme dislikes, extreme aversions. So when you say, oh gosh, I hate that movie or I hate that color, know that the Swadhishtana petal is dragging you back, your consciousness. Or I love this, I like it, oh my gosh, I can't live without it. It's all the same. Time to contemplate, I've already said. It is a time of dawn, the Brahma Muhurta time, because that is the energy of the Swadhisthana Chakra. Okay? What are the asana practice? Now for asana, because of the water, all kriyas become part of the practice. Anything that is moving. So sun salutations becomes an important practice in Swadhishtana Chakra. That is the most powerful to me. I've experienced this, and I'm talking out of experience. The greatest practice that helps channelize the sensual energies and begins to move what is called the Urdhvareta. You see how many layers of knowledge is there hidden in this, and I keep saying some word and then I realize, oh gosh, now I'd explain that. I'm running out of time. Urdhvareta is energy moving upwards. So this water and earth, to move upwards, you need powerful practices. Kriyas in yoga, the kriyas that we do before the classes definitely help. But the actual movement of the body is what helps. So Kriya, when you do sun salutations, you're actually bowing back, coming down, going up like this, going back and standing up. It is just like water flowing. The divine energy through you begins to awaken and begins to move up. That flow, the prana begins to flow. Okay, we'll talk about a granthi tomorrow, a knot that is causing this to get blocked, that gets broken. But Kriya is an important practice. So we call it Kriyas, not asanas. Surya Namaskara doesn't come, sun salutations if you will, and there is a whole list of simple videos that I've done under sun salutations playlist. Is that what it's called? Sun salutations playlist. So there is a playlist on YouTube. If you're interested, learn that. I've taught it for older people or people who have not done physical exercise, how you can do with the chair. Begin to move, engage the sun, okay? So you will begin to cause this awakening, okay? Kriya, flow routines. Flow routines I've seen on YouTube these days, the flow is too much fast. There is Anyway, we'll get into that, understand more of these flow routines later. But Krishnamacharya's school of yoga in Chennai, Krishnamacharya taught vinyasa. Vinyasas are like that. Powerful poses, but one from the other. You just continue flowing from the other. You don't stop and say, oh gosh, okay, now what's the next pose? And you go to the next pose. You don't break the flow. You go slowly. And slowly in my own classes, I'm in my daily yoga classes, we are beginning to understand that flow from one to the other. How do you flow from one pose to the other without stopping? So it slowly becomes a Kriya practice. It has to become for the Swadhishtana for us to be able to cleanse the Swadhisthana. I'm not going to say control the chakra, but open and cleanse the chakra. And then she opening and Devi opening and revealing, that is entirely grace. It's not under our control. You can't consciously make that happen. I've not experienced that way. So Kriyas. Mudra, we have talked about Vajroli Mudra in the class 7. So Vajroli Mudra is an important practice. Pranayama. Again, yesterday we did Surya Beda Pranayama, where you breathed in and out from the right nostril. Today is Chandra Beda Pranayama. So you breathe in and breathe out from the left nostril. So pre-dawn, you sit and meditate for 40 minutes. You bring in a mantra, and as you exhale, you chant the mantra or feel the mantra. So I'm breathing in from both nostrils, from Muladhara, pre-dawn. I breathe in from both my nostrils. And then I go, Om Gang Ganapataye Namaha. Right nostril. Surya Bheda, right? Muladhara. Same thing I go on doing. Then dawn comes. Now I reverse it. This side. I breathe in. Om Aim Hreem Shreem Shiva Shaktyatmikaye Shreem Hreem Aim Om. Any of those mantras I can practice. So inhale and exhale, allow the mantra to go out. Inhale, exhale. So you're doing right and then you're doing left in the dawn time. So you can imagine how long these Kundalini sadhanas will go on now. So these are long practices. So don't beat yourself, don't blame yourself, don't ask me, but I'm going to work, what do? I don't know the answer to that. But we'll keep that aside. First, just open your mind and learn these, okay? Then we'll practice. Maybe you can take one day for each chakra. We'll explore that as we go along. So Chandra Bheda Pranayama, the simpler version of Chandra Bheda. You breathe in from both nostrils and you exhale from the left. You breathe in from both nostrils, exhale from the left. Chandra Bheda, Surya Bheda and Chandra Bheda Pranayama. Okay? Done it at different times. Don't say first, can I do one Surya Bheda, one Chandra Bheda? Not at this point. No. For Swadhishtana, it's Chandra Bheda. For Muladhara, it is Surya Bheda. So when I'm meditating on Muladhara, along with Om Gang Ganapate Nama, I'm doing only Surya Bheda Pranayama. Then when I start the Shiva Shakti mantras, then I'm doing only Chandra Bheda Pranayama. Okay? Here, the Jyoti flame continues. The flame continues. The more steadier I'm able to visualize the flame, the more beautiful and clearer it becomes. I know that both these chakras are getting cleansed. Okay? So the Jyoti flame continues in this. The japa practice, just like I said yesterday, you have to feel the Gam Ganapati Nama. Here you begin to mentally think about that mantra. Think about the mantra. Mentally chant that mantra. Okay? Later on, when we come to understanding sound in the Kaivalya Marga, you'll understand there is Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama, Vaikari, and the fifth kind of sound. There are 5 types of sound that happens. So how does sound emerge from these chakras? That is why we are practicing japa in that form. So the first form is just feel the energy. It's a very silent form of Ganganapati Namaha. And then the thought form. These are very difficult to practice. At least I found it very difficult to understand and practice. Be very patient and let it come. Don't worry. Like I said, playfully engage in this. There's nothing to be afraid of. So if not, just mentally keep repeating. That's all. That bhava and all of this understanding will come. That's how I did. First, I never understood all of this. I said, I'm simply going to mentally repeat and concentrate. I let it come to me if it has to come to me. And it came to me. The understanding came and the practice becomes very beautifully divine. So be patient. Thought form. In the thought, begin to think in the thought begin to engage this mantra. Any of those 3 mantras. We can try any of them, whichever you feel at home, you practice. Oh, we're done. Okay. Any of those 3 mantras are good. So, you see, there is so much to learn, and I feel I just barely scratched the surface of this practice, because in each of those points that I mentioned, there is so much to go into, which is why these were taught not in 1 hour lectures. It perhaps takes days to cover each chakra, but I'm just using these Navaratris as, I guess, a ceremonial launching of these, if you will. I don't know how else to word this. A ceremonial launching of this school of thought, this divine knowledge, and I'm very, very grateful to be able to offer this. Then when we revisit it, we'll take each one and understand more. But before that, because Navaratri came in between, I'm doing this. Left to myself, I wouldn't have done this. Why? Because we need to understand each of the 5 elements. First, so air, the earth, water, fire, air, and space completely, and all lifestyles around it, begin to understand. Then when we talk of chakras, it makes a lot of sense. But it looks like the goddess wanted it this way. She brought in Navaratri just as we had started earlier this year. And so we'll go with the flow. We'll see how it, I just feel guided to do it. I feel it's the right time to do it. So let's do it. And then we will revisit this and study more. For now, you take any of these, start doing Kriyas as your practice. Let's say I don't understand all these mantras, I'm not going to get into. Let us say you feel I'm not safe, I will wait for a proper initiation or something like that. Start with Kriyas then. Start with sun salutation. Or if you feel comfortable, it is as Shiva and Shakti. I'm calling to my father and mother. I'm not afraid. So I want to practice only pranayama, either because I'm too old or I'm not capable of doing exercises. Then start this. Now, if you're young, at my age, when I was 23, 24, I started these practices and I began to begin to add them and do all of this in addition to chanting Lalita Sahasranama. When you do this intensely for continuously, I don't see why the divine will not open the doors for you and guide you to higher dimensions. So with this deep prayer and gratitude for all of you for having joined this class, I'll bring this class to a close and we'll explore the third, not chakra, but what is called a granthi, a knot that is holding the energy in these 2 chakras. We'll explore that tomorrow and we'll see what are the practices that helps to untie that granthi, and how that will happen as we understand this under the awakening of the Kundalini reflected in our expansion of consciousness, and all of that being reflected in our everyday thought, word, and deed. So thank you again for watching. Let us end this class with 1 Om and 3 Shantis. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.